Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to yet another episode of The Life of KH. Today's episode is a bit conflicting for me because I've been debating whether or not to discuss this. And I was leaning more towards not discussing it, but then it was in my content planning that this is the next topic. So here we are. I've brought in a bit of French courage by way of champagne so that the conversation will flow. But first, let's get into the news. We have quite a few interesting things to get started with. So, first on the list is the fact that the head prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, has been let go. The member states of the ICC have decided that he should be let go because there was a sexual harassment scandal, which he denies anything ever happening. But I suppose because they want to keep the integrity of the court, they let him go. And there's a lot of speculation of whether or not um, Trump and Netanyahu had anything to do with that. Because remember, the US has been trying to overturn the arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu for his um, crime in terms of acts against humanity. As a reminder, this is the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu was issued an arrest warrant by the International Criminal Court. This is for the war crimes that he committed in Gaza and continues to do so. And they have sanctioned a lot of the ICC judges and a lot of the key players who made this arrest warrant happen. So they are fighting against the ICC, and Karim Khan appears to be one of the casualties. And so, yes, they probably wanted the arrest warrant to be overturned with Karim Khan being um, fired. However, the arrest warrant remains intact, and any member state should arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he flies into their country um, or even uses their airspaces. Now, out of interest, when Netanyahu was flying from Israel to the US, he flew over multiple ICC member states and they didn't arrest him for using their airspace. So, I mean, the ICC member states and their implementation of these arrest warrants is starting to look a little bit sketchy right now. Actually, a lot sketchy. So there's that. Then there was a British study that showed that being broke could actually affect your cognitive skills and your memory. They followed people who were born in March 1946. They followed them over the years and they found that those who worried a lot about paying their bills at the end of the month performed poorly. Well, the bottom 20% performed poorly in terms of cognitive abilities and memory tests. So being broke can cost you your memory in middle age. And so, in other news, Johnson and Johnson have agreed to a $5.5 billion settlement for the 69,000 lawsuits against them related to their talc products, which have been shown to cause cancer. However, despite the settlement, Johnson and Johnson still deny that their talc products cause cancer. Question mark, question mark. Next story. So, in climate change news, I don't know if there are still people who deny that we have climate change in the world. The signs are all there. As an example, the Mediterranean now is becoming more tropical in climate, And this is attracting some tropical species of fish like the puffer fish, which is now running rampant in the Mediterranean and causing a bit of a problem in terms of the fishing supply chain. Because these fish, I saw the teeth. Oh, they're scary, scary stuff. They bite the other fish that the fishermen catch, and then as they bite the fish, they release a toxin called tetrodotoxin, which can cause people to stop breathing. So whichever fish that they catch, which has been bitten by the puffer fish, cannot be sold. So that reduces their ability to make an income. In addition, there's another fish called the rabbit fish, aka the underwater lawnmower, which is eating like the greenery underwater and then denying the native species of the food that they so rely on and changing like the ecosystem in the Mediterranean. So they're trying to tackle this issue. I don't know if it will be successful, but yeah, climate change has dire consequences, and those fishermen now in the Mediterranean have to deal with a reduction in the yield of fish that they catch, owing to the change in ecosystem, owing to the change in the fact that these puffer fishes are, you know, eating or chomping on the fish that they would like to catch and then sell. So, really, if you don't believe that climate change exists, I don't know how you could explain such occurrences. But I know for a fact that my audience is not dumb enough to believe that climate change is not a reality. Look at the heat waves that we are experiencing. Could anyone actually deny that this is a result of human actions that cause climate change? All these carbon emissions, all these private jets. Anyway, then still on climate change, open AI, yes, AI is part of the problem. So, I mean, all these data centers that they're building. But, anyways, on to the story. Open AI's rogue agent actually hacked into another tech company's account. The tech company is called Hugging Face, and it compromised the user's information. So, Open AI's rogue agent, of its own volition, hacked another account from a different company. Guys, what are we even doing with AI anymore? I mean, does an AI generating weekly recipes for you justify all the repercussions that we could face down the line? I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, and still on AI, Jeff Bezos says that we can't compromise the water that data centers need because humans also need water. No, no, we have to feed the data centers with clean, fresh water because we could create a super intelligent machine. And this may necessitate prioritizing water for data centers as opposed to human consumption. I wish this was not a reality or that it was fake news, but it's true. Then, in other explosive news, FIFA would like to sell stakes to private companies for the World Cup. They want to privatize the World Cup. I mean, they would still retain majority shares, but still, there would be private ownership of to the World Cup. This is insane. Of course, this has caused massive debate, and there's been major backlash from CONCACAF, UEFA, particularly UEFA, who have been very vocal about this. All 55 members of UEFA have opposed this proposal by Gianni Infantino to sell stakes to private companies. Then also 41 members of the CONCACAF have also unanimously agreed that they oppose this proposal by Infantino. So that makes 41 plus 55, which would be 96. And I think in total there are 211 members to FIFA. In any ways, Infantino has tried to bribe smaller countries by saying that if they agree to the proposal by a certain time, he could double their income. It would be even more like exponential increase in the amount of money they stand to make. Guys, what are we doing? What is this? What is this? I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid Infantino is drinking, but I think it could be the same brand as the US president. Facing major backlash, including from the Asian Football Confederation, Infantino announced that he's scrapping his proposal to sell stakes to the World Cup, as he should. Anyways, speaking of the US government showed a map of Africa that is AI generated, and it caused a lot of people to raise their eyebrows because Nigeria was in the Sahara Desert, not where it should actually be. Mozambique was in Ethiopia, and the Ivory Coast was on the opposite side of the map than where it should actually be. And this was at an AIDS conference in Brazil where there were discussions as well about the effects of the US pulling $60 billion of funding of US aid, which provided medicines for people living with HIV/AIDS, care, treatment, etc. So, yeah, I mean, they couldn't even bother to get the map correct, the map of Africa. Why would they even care about the people living on said continent? And then in other news, there's a lot happening in Africa, and I know that there are good things happening in Africa, but we also have a lot of challenges and a lot of people living below the poverty line, which is why migration is such a key issue, because for some people, immigration is their one way of survival. And when I see things like these in the news, it makes me sad. I know it should be that migration happens in a controlled way, etc., etc. But when you're desperate and this is your only option, I don't know. In any case, 49,000 migrants crossed the border into Ceuta. This is how you pronounce it in Spanish, but you write it Ceuta. So in English we would say Ceuta, but then it's Ceuta. So not the, so they crossed the border into Ceuta, and the the city's mayor or the town's mayor was asking the Spanish government for assistance and military intervention. They eventually did deploy the military into Ceuta, and I believe they said that 25,000 of the 49,000 people who crossed into Ceuta were deported back into Morocco. So, and I mean, there's contention because there are some people who say that Ceuta is Moroccan and not Spanish because it's on it's on the African continent. In any ways, yeah, and this was a very high number, but apparently these things happen a lot. In 2021, I believe 8,000 people crossed the border to Ceuta in 24 hours. But that has increased now to 49,000 in 24 hours. And looking at the videos of the people crossing, they were so happy, like, yes, viva España, work, work, work. And meanwhile, there were some Spanish people who were happy that the guys crossed. Hopefully they could make a better life for themselves. Then the other people who were against the crossings were saying, well, these guys think that they're going to get work coming here, but they might not get work. Remember, last week we were even discussing about youth unemployment in Mexico being 23.7, thereabouts. And so they're saying they might not get work, or they don't know that people are going to treat them like they're nobody. And that hurt quite a bit, because it could be true. There's a bit of negative sentiment towards migrants in Europe that is surging, the same as in the US. So it's a sad story and a reflection of the times. I'm going to insert a video clip of about 2 minutes here by a creator called Wali Rashid, who explains the situation in Ceuta quite well.
We're watching what's happening in Spain's city Ceuta right now. Take a listen to this. It was planned by the Trump administration and Israel. This guy right here is Michael Rubin. He's a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Since March of this year, this think tank has been heavily lobbying the Trump administration, especially Marco Rubio, to recognize Ceuta as territory of Morocco. The reason for this is because Morocco is part of the Abraham Accords. It's pro-Israel, and they want to punish Spain for not allowing the United States to use its airspace during the Iran war. This is an established U.S. think tank, by the way. Moroccans should gather, send bulldozers to the border, and then enter Ceuta and Melilla unarmed to raise the flag. Sanchez and the Spanish press bleat, but they have no grounds to act, nor for that matter would NATO, even if Moroccan forces enter the towns to restore order and organize dispatch of settlers across the strait and back to Spain. These two Spanish towns represent illegitimate beachheads and are home to approximately 170 Spanish settlers. They are weak spots for European security since African migrants regularly rush to the fence to claim asylum. It gets much worse, just wait. Republican U.S. Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida, who's very close friends with Marco Rubio, wrote a report back in April. He stated for the first time, the committee notes the historic alliance between the United States and Morocco. The committee notes that the Spanish-administered cities of Ceuta and Melilla are located in the Moroccan territory and remain the subject of Morocco's long-standing claim. It goes on to state the Secretary of State Marco Rubio should encourage diplomatic engagement between Morocco and Spain over the future status of the two cities. American Enterprise Institute has been pressuring the Trump administration on this for over a year. They want to bolster the Abraham Accords and they want to punish Spain. This is why this is happening. It's not because Spain is a left-wing government that can't control its borders. The United States and Israel are doing this together because they no longer want Spain to control those cities.
Anyways, so that was the current affairs. Now, on to the story of dating and making friends when you are late 30s and over 40. And this is specifically when you immigrate and you move to a different country. I mean, it's not easy making friends, especially when there's a language barrier and you don't speak the same language as the people that you live next to, your neighbors, etc. It can be difficult to make friends. And some people are very protective of their space, especially culture. They don't want to be making friends with people that don't have the same culture as them. Maybe they don't speak the same language. I remember in South Africa, my friends used to say, "Oh my God, Kudrano, how do you date a guy who doesn't speak your home language? Like, don't your English bundles run out?" Well, I guess here it would be the same. Maybe for the people who live here, the English bundles would run out and they just were not interested in carrying on a conversation in English and would rather revert to French or German, etc. So it plays a big role, but besides putting the the impetus on the locals to make friends, it's also on me. I was never good at making friends in any case. The friends that I made in high school, they approached me, and like I was kind of forced into this little group. And then eventually I was like, yeah, I guess we're friends. Then in university, crazy story, there was just this girl who was so out there. She just put a group of us together, a group of us misfits, and then, yeah, then we became friends. So, all that to say, I really didn't put it on myself to make friends because I'm not good at it, even when I was younger. So, I didn't expect that things would change at my age. And so moving to a new country, I just went about my business, carried on doing things that I was interested in. I was running, going to the gym. People said that you can meet guys at the gym or make friends at the gym. I'm not sure which gyms people are going to because it's not working for me. So yeah, I did try dating as well, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I did use like dating apps such as Tinder and Bumble. And the thing is, where I stay, it's kind of like a small community. So when I went onto these apps, I saw people that I worked with. I mean, from the senior researchers to the interns, oh my God, the embarrassment. Like the way I deactivated my apps after that, I've never returned on the apps after I saw those people because I was like, this can't be real life. Like, oh my God. I see them at work, I see them on dating apps. So I deactivated the dating apps, but before that, I did meet a couple of guys, went on dates. I mean, I don't know, guys, when you're late 30s, it seems to me like you only match with younger guys. Like, where are the over 40 guys that want to date women in their age bracket? Like, I don't understand. I seem to be matching with younger guys, 20 something year olds, early 30s. I don't know. I couldn't date the early 20s guys. I just, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Would you date someone that was 24 years old in your 40s? I don't know. I don't think so. In anyways, yeah, the over 40 guys don't seem to want to date women women who are late 30s and in their 40s. So, yeah, I seemed to only attract the younger guys. And then, oh, yes, there was a guy who said that he is 40 years old. And I was like, oh, great. This guy is like maybe a couple years older than me. And it's peachy. Let's meet the guy. And then when we met, he seemed to be 60 something years old as opposed to 40 years old. So he was definitely a catfish. I was catfished. And there was nothing interesting that I could speak to the guy about. And he had like a fetish of hitting. He was asking me if I was okay with hitting during schmecks. I was like, no, thank you. Not at all. Like, okay, let me not judge. People have their kinks and stuff. Good for them. But damn, dude, you're 60. What are you doing hitting people during sex? Yo. Anyways, yeah, I'm afraid that the dating scene over 40 in this particular place is a bust, and I have given up. So it's a short topic, I guess, because there's not really much to discuss. So this could be a very short podcast, but I would be remiss if during this topic I didn't discuss some of my anecdotes during my dating conquests or dating adventures. Let me say it's not conquests really, just adventures. And I just noticed a pattern. A lot of them started with guys who cycled to the dates. So they mostly stayed in the center of Paris and they would cycle to where I was, which is about maybe 42 an hour's worth of cycling. And we would have a walk in the park. So the first time around, the guy cooked me breakfast at the park with a gas stove, which I guess was really cute and could be considered romantic. But there was no second date after that. I mean, he was a nice guy and everything, but yeah, I was alarmed. I had never been on a walking date before. It's normally meeting at a restaurant or something. So this was new. Then the second date was another guy who showed up with his bicycle. And then he also brought some snacks and some wine, which kudos to him. But it still wasn't a restaurant. But I think at this point I had acclimatized myself to these outdoor dates. And there, I guess we could say there was more value in the walking date because we walked around Paris and he took me to all these historical sites. Some of them I knew, others I didn't really know. Like, I didn't know the history about the Samaritan and Pont Neuf, so the first bridge in Paris, if I'm not wrong. Samaritan was the first headquarters of LVMH in Paris. They have since moved to Champs Elysees. And recently, LV had their fashion show there. I think it was the Paris Fashion Week. Pharrell was there, Tiana Taylor was there. So this was all at Samaritan and on Pont Neuf. This is the runway was Pont Neuf, that first bridge that was built in Paris, which goes across the Seine River. And yes, with the guy, we walked along the Seine, and I mean, he was telling me some of the historical facts in Paris, some interesting things. You could say it was romantic, but I'm still not sure how I feel about these walking dates. I don't think I'm a big fan. I would like to discover like a city and so on, and walking obviously is the best way. But yeah, for a first date, I think I would still like to be wined and dined, you know? I'm an old fashioned girl. I'm just a girl. Don't take me for a walking date on our first date. This could be something fun that we do on our fourth, fifth date, something. And then my third date was another walking date. Surprise, surprise. I don't know, maybe it's like a Parisian thing. It has to be a Parisian thing. But this time we went to one of these big parks around Paris, and it was a nice park. We even saw some guy proposing to his lady, and she said yes. It was so romantic. But for me, that date was not romantic at all. Yes, the guy brought wine as well. I could give him points for that, but still, wine and dine me. Dang, why do I have to be walking around on our first date? Anyways, another peculiar one was this guy who said that because I was late for the date, I think I might have been like 10 minutes late or so, that I would buy him dessert. Then he took me to this very fancy patisserie, and as you can imagine, it's expensive. At first, I didn't understand what he said, but then when we got to the patisserie, he chose his dessert, I chose mine, and then when it was time to pay, he was looking at me. I was like, oh, that's what you meant. As punishment for my late coming, I was supposed to buy him dessert. Oh my goodness, you guys. Anyways, obviously, there was never a second date after that. He too took me for a walk and showed me some other hidden gems around Paris, but still, oh, what is with Parisians and these walking dates? Is it a Parisian thing? Or do people around the world experience the same thing? Like, yeah, I was I was very surprised, not pleasantly, and as I said, it's no surprise that none of these guys made it long term at all. At all. When you go out alone and so on, there's no one that is going to approach you to say, hey, do you mind if I join you, whatever. And not to say that I go out by myself just to attract men. No, I want to spoil myself, sit alone for a quiet dinner, enjoy some fine dining and so on. So, but just to say, people could say you need to put yourself out there a lot more. Well, yeah, I go out on my own, and I enjoy like fine dining experiences, etc. No one approaches me, which great. But even putting yourself out there doesn't really work. So gym doesn't work, hiking doesn't work, dining alone doesn't work. The dating apps, I'm not going back there because I really do not. I don't want to be faced with my colleagues on the same apps again. I'm just wondering, since I saw them on the apps, did they see me? I think that they did see me because there was one particular guy who started looking at me funny after I created my account on the dating apps. Or maybe I was just being paranoid. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. Maybe he saw. But going on dating apps, I will never do. It's a humiliation ritual, especially in a small community. So, ah, what does this mean for me? Okay, for me, in this particular space that I'm in, making friends and dating over 40 is a bust. It's difficult, it seems impossible, and I 0 out of 10 do not recommend. And I will continue to drink champagne, drink water as well, and mind my business because that's all that I can do. Or maybe I could start a reading club, or I don't know, look for some activities to do, but damn, it just seems like a lot of work. But to be honest, I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't even know if I will release this podcast because, yeah, as I said, it's embarrassing for me and I wasn't sure if I wanted to record it. But I'm recording it because I listened to podcasts about dating when you are 40 and over. And I felt like they didn't give enough information about their experiences. Was it possible? How they found it? It was just glossed over. In fact, I think that when they put the title of dating when you're 40 and over, it's more clickbaity because it's not even like a major topic of the podcast. It's more like oh yeah, I went on a couple of dates and I found some guys here and there, but it just didn't have meat on the bone. It was more like broad discussion of something, and then they just touched on the dating over 40. And I don't know what I expected from them, but I wanted to make this episode to say to someone who is an expat wanting to date over 40, look, it's possible. You can go on the dating apps. It's a bit difficult if you're staying in a small community and maybe you will meet your neighbor or your work colleague on the apps. And I don't know, if you are brave enough, it could be a conversation starter with your colleague. You could match with your colleague. No, but really, you could match with your colleague. Me personally, I don't believe in dating people I work with. But if you are not of the same view, you could match with the colleague. You never know, it could be your soulmate. So if you agree with that kind of thing, go ahead. Your soulmate could be an office away from you. So the apps are one way definitely of meeting people that you can date, but it's true, it's a numbers game. Here I agree with a lot of the people that say that dating is a numbers game. Before you find the right guy, you have to have gone through maybe 20 horrendous dates. I'm not that way inclined, and this is where I feel that the problem is. I'm not that way inclined. I just had like a few bad dates. Let me say five bad dates, five or six. And afterwards, I decided that online dating is not for me. Whereas, on the other hand, there are people who have gone on those 20 dates or whatever and eventually found their forever person, you know? So it depends on whether or not you have the tenacity to carry on and go on date after date after date, even if it doesn't work. And I know so many famous, well, I don't know the famous people, I know of their stories, who have gone on these dating apps and have met people that they're married to, that they're in long term relationships with, and it works for them, you know? So, yeah, um, if it works for you, then by all means try that. If you have the tenacity and the determination, you will eventually find the right person for you. It is really a numbers game. And for me, I don't have that tenacity. Normally, with everything else, I persevere. Studies, work, etc. I will have the tenacity and the perseverance. But when it comes to dating, no. So I would rather be by myself and enjoy my own company, which I do a lot, than be bothered by five bad dates. I don't want to do another 15 or 14 more dates of nonsense. So I guess this would be squarely on my doorstep in terms of why I am not finding the right person online. And then in terms of putting yourself out there, well, yeah, I mean, I I do go out quite a bit, but also I go out with my child. And I wonder if when guys see you with a child, they automatically assume that you have someone that you're dating or someone that you're married to. Like, I'm a single mom, guys, date me. Yeah, sure. I'm pushing a pram and going with my child to these restaurants or doing all these activities, but you need to be brave. Anyways, so in that sense, but I do also go out by myself. Even then, I am not approached. So, am I missing something? It could be a lot of things. I don't know what it is. Nonetheless, my confidence remains unshaken. I know that I'm okay looking, and the fact that I I have a lot to offer, but I am not bothered by not having someone that I'm dating or a partner. And I'm afraid that maybe it might be difficult for me to date eventually because I'm so okay with my life the way it is. I really am. And I enjoy the freedom of not answering to anyone, the freedom of just waking up one time, packing my bags, packing my child's bags, and then we leave. We go to South Africa, we go to Spain, wherever we want to go, and then we just have fun without answering to anyone, without having to convince anyone, oh, let's do this, getting someone to understand your interests, like, oh, I need time alone so that I can finish this book that I'm reading. I don't know. I think that my dating bundles have been depleted. Yeah, that's what it is. So maybe it was a good thing that I recorded this episode because this is the conclusion that I have reached. My dating bundles have simply been depleted. That's it. My life is full as it is, and I am happy and fulfilled. I don't need an addition to my life to maybe fill a gap or space that is empty. There's no empty space. We're good. We're good over here. So that's the conclusion from today's episode. You can deplete your dating bundles. And mine have long been depleted or have expired, whichever one. Anyways, thank you for listening to yet another episode of The Life of KH. I'll catch you on the next one. Clink, clink.